Admiral Jack Morrison stood before the massive observation deck of the ES Constellation, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the familiar sight of Earth's moon hanging in the void. After 30 years of service in the United Earth Space Command, he had seen the lunar surface countless times, but today something felt different. The urgency in Commander Sarah Chen's voice during the briefing still echoed in his mind. "Admiral," came a voice behind him. Jack turned to see Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb approaching, his tablet displaying streams of data that seemed to pulse with an almost hypnotic rhythm. "The science team has completed their preliminary analysis of the anomalous readings from Lunar Base 7. Jack nodded, his steel-gray eyes focusing on the younger officer. Webb had been with his crew for 3 years now, proving himself invaluable during the Titan mining crisis and the diplomatic mission to Europa. "What's the verdict, Marcus?" "Sir, the electromagnetic signatures don't match anything in our databases. The patterns are structured, almost like they're artificial in nature." Webb swiped through several displays on his tablet. "Dr. Rodriguez believes we're looking at technology, not natural phenomena." The Admiral's jaw tightened slightly. In his experience, unknown technology this close to Earth rarely meant good news. "How long until we reach Lunar Base 7? 14 hours, sir. The crew is running final diagnostics on the exploration equipment now." Jack turned back to the viewing port, watching the moon grow incrementally larger as the constellation adjusted its trajectory. The ship was one of the newest in the fleet, equipped with advanced scanning arrays and exploration modules specifically designed for encounters with unknown phenomena. If there was something unusual happening on the lunar surface, they would find it. "Assemble the away team in Conference Room Alpha in 1 hour," Jack ordered. "I want Dr. Rodriguez, Sergeant Torres, Lieutenant Kim, and yourself present for final mission parameters." "Yes, sir." Webb hesitated for a moment. "Admiral, there's something else. The readings are getting stronger as we approach. Whatever's down there, it's definitely active." Jack's expression remained stoic, but internally he felt the familiar flutter of anticipation that preceded every major discovery of his career. "Then we'd better be prepared for anything, Commander." An hour later, the senior staff gathered around the holographic display in Conference Room Alpha. The three-dimensional representation of the lunar surface rotated slowly, highlighting the Tycho crater region where Lunar Base 7 had detected the anomalous signals. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's chief synergiologist, manipulated the display with practiced efficiency. Her dark eyes were bright with scientific curiosity as she pointed to a series of red markers scattered across the crater floor. "The electromagnetic emissions are emanating from approximately 1,200 meters below the surface, concentrated in this region here." She highlighted a section of the crater wall. "Based on our long-range scans, there appears to be a complex cave system that wasn't present in previous surveys." Sergeant Maria Torres, the team's security specialist, leaned forward in her chair. Her scarred hands, mementos from the Martian uprising 5 years prior, drummed quietly against the table. "How recent are we talking, Doc? Caves don't just appear overnight. That's what makes this so intriguing," Rodriguez replied. "According to Lunar Base 7's records, this entire section was solid rock just 6 months ago. Whatever caused these formations to appear happened recently, and it happened fast." Lieutenant Angela Kim, the team's technology specialist, studied her personal scanner with intense concentration. "The power signatures are off the charts. We're reading energy outputs equivalent to a small fusion reactor, but the patterns are completely unlike anything human technology produces." Admiral Jack absorbed the information silently, his mind already formulating contingency plans. "Security assessment, Sergeant?" Torres straightened in her chair. "Unknown variables make this inherently high risk, sir. I recommend full combat loadout for the away team, emergency beacon protocols, and a strict 6-hour time limit for initial reconnaissance." "Agreed." Jack turned to Webb. "Commander, I want the Constellation positioned for immediate extraction if necessary. Keep the engines warm and maintain constant communication with the away team." "Sir," Kim interjected, "there's something else you should know about these energy readings. They're not constant. They pulse in a pattern that. She paused, checking her scanner again. That almost resembles a heartbeat. The room fell silent for several moments. Jack felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders as he considered the implications. In his 3 decades of service, he had encountered strange phenomena, alien artifacts, and unexplained technologies, but something about this mission felt different. Bigger. We proceed as planned, he announced finally. Full exploration protocols, but we go in prepared for anything. Departure in 8 hours. The shuttle Mercury's wing detached from the constellation with a barely perceptible shudder, its sleek hull glinting in the harsh sunlight as it began its descent toward the lunar surface. Admiral Jack sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls despite the growing intensity of the electromagnetic readings flooding their instruments. Jesus! Webb muttered from the co-pilot's position, studying the cascade of data streaming across his displays. The signals are getting stronger by the minute. Whatever's down there, it knows we're coming. Dr. Rodriguez peered over his shoulder, her face illuminated by the glow of the scanner screens. The patterns are definitely becoming more complex. Look at this. She pointed to a series of wave-like formations on the display. These readings suggest the source is responding to our approach. Sergeant Torres checked her weapon systems for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. I don't like the sound of that. Document responsive unknowns usually mean trouble. The lunar landscape spread out below them, a familiar tapestry of ancient craters and airless valleys. But as they approached the Tycho crater region, Jack noticed something that made him frown. Kim, are you seeing this? Lieutenant Kim looked up from her technical console and followed Jack's gaze through the forward viewport. Where the satellite images had shown rough, rocky terrain, there was now a distinctly artificial-looking formation jutting from the crater wall. That definitely wasn't there before. The structure appeared to be made of a dark, almost crystalline material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It rose from the lunar surface like a twisted spire, its surface covered in intricate geometric patterns that hurt to look at for too long. New plan, Jack announced, adjusting their approach vector. We're setting down at a safe distance and proceeding on foot. I want full environmental suits and maximum caution. The shuttle touched down with practiced precision on a flat section of regolith approximately 500 meters from the mysterious structure. As the dust settled around them, the away team began their final equipment checks. Atmospheric readings? Jack asked as he sealed his helmet. Complete vacuum, as expected, Kim reported. But the electromagnetic interference is so strong it's affecting our communications array. We might have intermittent contact with the constellation. Torres slung her pulse rifle across her shoulders and activated her suit's defensive systems. Motion sensors are practically useless in this interference. We're going to be relying on visual contact and instinct. Dr. Rodriguez gathered her geological scanning equipment, her excitement palpable even through the comm system. Preliminary readings suggest the structure is composed of materials not found anywhere else in the solar system. The molecular arrangement is unusual. Define unusual, Jack requested as they prepared to exit the shuttle. The atomic structure appears to be artificially stabilized in a way that shouldn't be possible with known physics. It's as if someone found a way to make matter behave according to different rules. The away team stepped onto the lunar surface, their boots crunching softly in the powdery regolith. The structure loomed before them, even more imposing at ground level. Up close, they could see that the geometric patterns on its surface were not merely decorative. They seemed to pulse with a faint inner light that synchronized with the electromagnetic readings on their scanners. Spread out, Jack ordered. Stay within visual contact and report anything unusual immediately. As they approached the base of the structure, Kim made the first significant discovery. Admiral, there's an opening here. It looks like a doorway. The entrance was perfectly circular, approximately 3 meters in diameter, and led into darkness that their helmet lights couldn't seem to penetrate. The edges of the opening were smooth, as if the material had simply folded back on itself to create the passage. Atmospheric readings inside? Jack inquired. Kim consulted her scanner, frowning at the results. That's the strange part, sir. There appears to be atmosphere inside the structure. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, roughly Earth normal pressure. But that's impossible. The moon doesn't have the gravitational field to maintain an atmosphere, especially not inside an open structure like this. Torres moved to the entrance, her weapon ready. Could be a trap. Artificial atmosphere could mean artificial intelligence controlling it. Dr. Rodriguez was practically vibrating with scientific excitement. Or it could mean we found evidence of advanced technology beyond anything humanity has achieved. Admiral, we have to investigate this. Jack studied the entrance carefully, weighing the risks against the potential for discovery. In his career, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now they were telling him that whatever lay beyond this threshold would change everything. We go in, he decided. Standard exploration formation. Dr. Rodriguez, I want continuous readings on everything. Kim, monitor the atmospheric conditions closely. Torres, watch our backs. And everyone stay alert. We have no idea what we're walking into. The team crossed the threshold into the structure, their helmet lights creating dancing shadows on walls that seemed to extend far beyond the reach of their illumination. The moment they stepped inside, their environmental suits registered the atmospheric change Kim had detected, and Jack made the decision to switch to internal air supplies rather than risk contamination. The passage stretched ahead of them, its walls lined with the same geometric patterns they had observed on the exterior. But inside, the patterns were more complex, more detailed, and they seemed to respond to the team's presence by growing brighter as they passed. It's definitely reacting to us, Webb observed, his voice tight with barely controlled excitement. The patterns are following our movement. They had been walking for approximately 20 minutes when Dr. Rodriguez stopped abruptly, her scanner beeping frantically. Admiral, I'm reading massive hollow spaces ahead. This structure is much larger than we initially thought. How much larger? Jack asked. The readings suggest a complex extending several kilometers into the lunar subsurface. We're not just dealing with a single structure, this is an entire facility. The passage opened into a vast chamber that defied their understanding of lunar geology. The ceiling arched high above them, supported by flowing pillars that seemed to have been grown rather than built. Bioluminescent formations provided a soft, blue-green glow that made their helmet lights unnecessary. My God! Kim whispered, slowly turning to take in the scope of the chamber. The engineering required to create something like this. Torres remained focused on potential threats, her weapon sweeping the shadows at the edge of their vision. Too many blind spots. We're exposed here. But Dr. Rodriguez was already moving deeper into the chamber, her scanner painting the air with thin beams of light as she took readings. The materials here are definitely not natural. The molecular structure is similar to what we observed outside, but more complex. It's as if the technology becomes more sophisticated the deeper we go. They spent the next hour carefully exploring the chamber, documenting everything they found. The structure was clearly artificial, but unlike anything in human experience. The walls were smooth and organic-looking, but harder than diamond. The air was not only breathable but seemed to be actively maintained by systems they couldn't locate or understand. It was Lieutenant Kim who made the discovery that changed everything. Admiral, she called from the far end of the chamber, her voice echoing strangely in the vast space. You need to see this. The team converged on Kim's position, where she stood before what could only be described as a doorway, though unlike any door they had ever seen. It was a perfect oval of absolute darkness, suspended several centimeters above the floor with no visible means of support. The edges of the oval shimmered with energy patterns that made their scanners emit confused bleeps and whistles. What are we looking at? Jack asked. Kim ran her scanner over the phenomenon, shaking her head at the results. Energy readings are off the charts, but they're not harmful. The radiation signature is completely benign. But Admiral... She paused, double-checking her instruments. This isn't just an energy field. It's a portal. A portal to where? Webb inquired, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer wouldn't be comforting. Unknown. The energy patterns extend beyond our scanning range, but they're definitely creating some kind of spatial distortion, Wherever this leads, it's not anywhere in our solar system. Dr. Rodriguez was studying the portal with undisguised fascination. The technology required to create stable spatial distortions. We're talking about scientific principles that are centuries beyond our current understanding. Sergeant Torres positioned herself between the portal and the rest of the team. Unknown destination, unknown technology, unknown consequences. I strongly advise against any contact. Admiral Jack found himself in the position that had defined his entire career, facing the unknown with incomplete information and having to make a decision that could affect not just his team, but potentially all of humanity. He studied the portal, noting how the energy patterns seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats, as if responding to their biological signatures. Options? He asked his team. Webb consulted his tablet. We could return to the constellation, report our findings, and wait for additional support and equipment. We could take detailed scans and measurements, establish a monitoring station, and study the portal from a safe distance, Kim added. Torres nodded approvingly. Reconnaissance in force. Come back with a full exploration team and proper backup. But Dr. Rodriguez shook her head. With respect to my colleagues, we have a unique opportunity here. The portal is active now, responding to our presence. There's no guarantee it will remain stable if we leave and return. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make contact with an advanced civilization. Jack absorbed their input, his mind racing through the implications of each option. The safe choice would be to return to the ship and call for reinforcements. But in his experience, safe choices rarely led to significant discoveries. And there was something about the portal, something in the way it seemed to beckon them forward, that suggested this opportunity might not come again. Dr. Rodriguez is right about one thing, he said finally. We don't know how long this portal will remain active. If we're going to explore it, it has to be now. Torres stepped forward. Sir, I cannot recommend. Your objection is noted, Sergeant, and I appreciate your concern for the team's safety. But we didn't come all this way to turn back at the first sign of the unknown. Jack looked each team member in the eye. I'm not ordering anyone through that portal. This is voluntary only. Anyone who wants to remain here can do so. The team exchanged glances, and Jack could see the internal struggle each of them was facing. Fear warred with curiosity, caution with ambition, duty with desire for discovery. Webb was the first to speak. If you're going, Admiral, then I'm going with you. Kim nodded. The technological implications alone make this worth the risk. Dr. Rodriguez was already gathering her equipment. I wouldn't miss this for anything. Torres sighed, checking her weapon systems one final time. Someone has to keep you scientists from getting killed by your own curiosity. I'm in. Jack felt a surge of pride in his team. Very well. Full equipment check, emergency protocols activated. If we're not back in 6 hours, Commander Webb is to return through the portal and report our status to the constellation. The portal hummed with barely audible energy as the away team made their final preparations. Admiral Jack ran through the checklist one last time. Emergency beacons activated, suit systems at full charge, weapons ready, scientific equipment calibrated. Every member of his team was as prepared as they could be for stepping into the complete unknown. Atmospheric readings on the other side? Jack asked Lieutenant Kim as she held her scanner toward the portal's edge. Inconclusive, sir. The energy field is interfering with the sensors, but I'm getting hints of a breathable atmosphere. Temperature appears to be within acceptable ranges for human habitation. Kim paused, studying her readouts more carefully. Admiral, there's something else. I'm detecting gravity on the other side. Gravity? Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her own instruments. How is that possible? Portals don't typically alter gravitational fields. I don't know, but the readings are consistent. Whatever we're looking at, it's not just a spatial displacement. We might be looking at an entirely different world. Sergeant Torres positioned herself at point, her pulse rifle ready. Unknown world, unknown threats. I'll go through first, establish a perimeter, and signal when it's clear. Jack shook his head. We go through together. If there's danger on the other side, splitting up won't help us. Standard formation, Torres on point, Rodriguez and Kim in the middle, Webb and I covering the rear. The team approached the portal's edge, and Jack could feel the hair on his arms standing up despite the insulation of his environmental suit. The energy field created a sensation like static electricity, but more fundamental, as if it were affecting matter at the molecular level. Last chance to reconsider, Jack announced, though he could see in their faces that his team was committed to the mission. Torres stepped forward first, her weapon raised and ready. "See you on the other side," she said, and walked into the portal. For a moment, she simply disappeared, as if she had never existed. Then her voice crackled through their comm system. "Holy Mother of Admiral, you need to see this. It's safe to come through, but you're not going to believe what's on the other side." The rest of the team exchanged glances, then stepped forward as one into the portal. Jack felt a sensation like falling upward, a moment of complete disorientation where up and down lost all meaning, and then he was standing on solid ground under an alien sky. The first thing Jack noticed was the air. Even through his suit's filters, he could detect that the atmosphere was different, richer somehow, with subtle scents that spoke of growing things and clean water. The sky above was a deep purple-blue, shot through with golden clouds that drifted lazily across two suns, one larger and more orange than Earth's, the other smaller and blue-white. But it was the landscape that truly took his breath away. They stood on what appeared to be a hillside overlooking a vast valley filled with vegetation unlike anything from Earth. Trees that resembled massive crystals grew alongside flowing, ribbon-like plants that seemed to dance in a breeze that carried musical notes. In the distance, mountains rose like twisted spires, their peaks crowned with formations that glowed with soft phosphorescence. "Atmospheric analysis?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kim was already running her scanners, her eyes wide with amazement behind her helmet visor. "Oxygen content is actually higher than Earth normal. 24% compared to our 21. Nitrogen trace gases. Admiral, this atmosphere is not only breathable, it's arguably better for human physiology than our home world." Dr. Rodriguez was practically bouncing with excitement as she examined the ground beneath their feet. "The soil composition is extraordinary. Mineral content that shouldn't exist naturally, organic compounds I don't recognize. It's as if this entire ecosystem has been optimized for maximum biodiversity." Webb was staring at the horizon, his tablet forgotten in his hands. "The gravitational field is about 90% of Earth normal. But those suns, the orbital mechanics required to maintain a stable climate with a binary star system. Are you saying this world was engineered?" Jack asked. "I'm saying the probability of this level of environmental perfection occurring naturally is astronomically small. Either we're looking at the result of millions of years of terraforming, or—" Rodriguez paused, considering the implications. "Or we're on a world that was designed from the ground up to support life." Sergeant Torres had established a defensive perimeter and was scanning the surrounding area for threats. "No immediate dangers visible, but there's definitely life here. I'm seeing movement in the vegetation, and something large passed overhead about 2 minutes ago." Jack looked up just in time to see a creature gliding between the crystal trees in the distance. It appeared to be about the size of a small aircraft, with gossamer wings that caught and reflected the light from both suns. As it moved, it left a trail of sparkling particles in the air that slowly faded like terrestrial fireflies. "Magnificent," Dr. Rodriguez breathed. "The biodiversity here must be incredible. Let's not get too distracted by the scenery," Jack cautioned, though he was as amazed as the rest of his team. "We have 6 hours to conduct initial reconnaissance and return safely. I want samples, readings, and documentation, but our primary objective is to ensure this portal remains stable for future exploration." The team began to spread out in a careful search pattern, each member focused on their area of expertise. Kim worked on understanding the technology that maintained the portal on this side, which appeared to be integrated into what looked like a natural rock formation. Webb documented the astronomical phenomena, taking measurements of the binary star system and the world's position relative to other celestial bodies. Rodriguez collected soil and plant samples, her excitement growing with each new discovery. It was Torres who made the first contact with the local fauna. "Admiral," her voice crackled through the comm system with barely controlled tension. "I've got movement approaching from the northwest. Large, moving in a pack formation." Jack looked in the direction Torres indicated and saw them immediately. They were unlike anything from Earth's evolutionary history, yet unmistakably predatory in their movement patterns. The creatures moved through the crystal forest with fluid grace, their bodies approximately the size of terrestrial wolves but built differently. Their backs were covered with what appeared to be bony protrusions, not quite horns, not quite spines, but something in between that caught and refracted the light from the twin suns. "How many?" Jack asked, moving to Torres's position. "I count 7, possibly 8. They're maintaining formation, which suggests pack intelligence." "And Admiral." Torres paused, adjusting her weapon's targeting system. "They are moving directly toward our position. I don't think this is a coincidence." Dr. Rodriguez had noticed the approaching creatures and was studying them through her scanner. "Fascinating. The bone structures on their backs appear to be sensory organs of some kind. They're probably detecting our presence through electromagnetic radiation or possibly even our biological signatures." "Are they hostile?" Webb asked, backing toward the portal. "Unknown," Torres replied. "But their approach pattern is deliberate. They're either curious or they consider us a threat to their territory." The pack had moved to within 50 meters of the team's position, and Jack could see them more clearly now. They were beautiful creatures, their bodies covered in fur that shifted color like oil on water, flowing from deep purples to brilliant golds as they moved. The horn-like protrusions on their backs were arranged in complex patterns that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent light. Most remarkably, they appeared to be watching the humans with obvious intelligence, their large eyes tracking individual team members with an awareness that suggested more than simple animal curiosity. "They're not attacking," Jack observed. "Torres, lower your weapon but keep it ready. Everyone else, slow movements only. I think we might be looking at our first contact with intelligent life." As if responding to his words, the lead creature, slightly larger than the others and with more elaborate horn patterns, stepped forward and made a sound that was unlike anything Jack had ever heard. It wasn't quite a howl, wasn't quite a song, but something that combined elements of both with harmonics that seemed to resonate in the very air around them. "Did anyone else feel that?" Kim asked, her voice filled with wonder. "Feel what?" Webb responded. "The sound. It wasn't just auditory. It was tactile. Like it was trying to communicate through vibration as well as sound." Dr. Rodriguez was practically vibrating with excitement. "Multimodal communication. They're using sound, electromagnetic fields, and probably pheromones simultaneously. The complexity of this communication system." The lead creature made the sound again, and this time Jack did feel it, a gentle pressure against his consciousness that felt almost like a question. The creature tilted its head, studying him with eyes that seemed far too intelligent for any animal he had ever encountered. "I think it's trying to communicate with us," Jack said quietly. "Kim, are you recording this?" "Every second, sir. The acoustic patterns are incredibly complex. If this is language, it's operating on multiple levels simultaneously." Slowly, carefully, Jack took a step forward. The creature watched him but didn't retreat, and the rest of the pack maintained their positions. When he was about 10 meters away, Jack stopped and raised his hand in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peaceful intent. The creature's response was immediate and unmistakable. It lowered its head in what could only be described as a bow, then raised it again and repeated its complex vocalization. But this time, the sound was different, gentler, with harmonics that seemed almost welcoming. "First contact," Webb whispered through the comm system. "We're actually making first contact with an alien intelligence." Jack felt the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. In his 30 years of service, he had imagined this scenario countless times, but the reality was far more profound than anything he had anticipated. These creatures were clearly intelligent, possibly as intelligent as humans, and they were attempting to establish communication. The lead creature took several steps closer, and Jack could see details that made his breath catch. The bony protrusions on its back weren't just sensory organs, they were arranged in patterns that resembled mathematical sequences. The creature was literally wearing its intelligence on its back, displaying complex information in a way that suggested a civilization built around the sharing of knowledge. Admiral, Dr. Rodriguez's voice was tight with excitement. The patterns on their backs, they're not random. They're depicting mathematical concepts. Look at the lead creature's horn arrangement. That's the Fibonacci sequence. Jack studied the creature more carefully, and Rodriguez was right. The positioning and size of the bony protrusions followed the famous mathematical progression that appeared throughout nature. But more than that, as he watched, the patterns seemed to shift and change, displaying different sequences. It's showing us that it understands mathematics, Jack realized. It's trying to establish a common language. The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Kim stepped forward and activated her tablet's display, showing a simple mathematical equation on the screen. The creature's reaction was immediate. The patterns on its back shifted to display the solution, and it made a sound that could only be described as pleased. "We have communication," Jack announced, his voice filled with awe and excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have just made first contact with an intelligent alien species.